I'm going to try this hour to pull together several threads of what we have heard from the Reform Party and paint a picture for you of what they apparently think we should do, how we should live, what families should look like, and not even what families should ideally look like. This is, in many instances, what they're suggesting is quite heavy-handed state intervention to try and influence your choices about who you spend your life with, whether or not you get married, whether or not you choose to have children, hybrid working, all that kind of stuff. So you've got this week, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because the Reform Party are doing this kind of campaigning by conference type thing. They keep calling press conferences because they know that that is going to generate headlines without them having to face their political opponents or face much scrutiny from journalists. And it's genius, really. It's very underhanded way to try and get support for your party, but it's kind of genius. And in one of these press conferences that they called, because they're having one every 5 minutes at the moment, Nigel Farage said this week that his party would seek to end people working from home. He said Britain needed an attitudinal change to hard work rather than work-life balance. And he claimed that people were more productive working from home. People were not more productive working from home, but better working in person. Now, like a lot of the things that Nigel Farage says, this is not only seeped in really rank hypocrisy, but it's also absolute gubbins. So a 2025 study by King's College London found that productivity increased by 10.5% after a company switched to being fully remote. It's also been found in numerous studies that working from home reduces sick days by 12.5% approximately and quitting by 35% with no cost to profit or performance. So it's not true to say that people are more productive if they are working in an office or on site than if they are working from home. Also, apparently in Nigel Farage's constituency in Clacton, they call him Nigel Mirage because if they ever see him, they assume that they're hallucinating. Or if they were ever to see him, they would assume that they were hallucinating. So rare are his appearances where he works, in his office. He very often works from home. And in fact, he employed his wife as his parliamentary secretary back when he was a member of the European Parliament. And she presumably worked from home. So, like I say, hypocrisy, but also gubbins. So you've got that. You've got the working from home, which is so beneficial, particularly to working parents. I'm not saying that I think everybody in the world should work from home. I think that hybrid working and more freedom of choice is the way forward. But for working parents, the option to work from home a couple of days a week maybe can be an absolute godsend that enables them to work and parent in a more balanced way and to make some choices that benefit them. So you have that. You also have the fact that there's been some controversy this week because a Reform candidate, some YouTube footage has been unearthed in which this candidate claimed that young girls and women should be given a biological reality check and that women in Britain are having children much too late in life. This is the same candidate who has also previously suggested that child-free people should be taxed more. So you've got them saying, and this is not official policy, but this is sort of coming from the same direction. It's all part of the packaged up from the same right-wing playbook, that women should be prioritising being mothers over further education, over building a career for themselves. Obviously, if they choose not to do those things, it's their fault. It's their stupid fault that our birth rate is declining and we should blame them entirely. And particular ire is reserved for child-free women. But you can't have too many children because back in February, Farage was accused of choosing pints over poverty. He unveiled a £3 billion plan to slash the cost of beer by reinstating the 2-child limit on benefits, which it takes something like 500,000 kids out of poverty in this country. So we want you to have children young, but no more than 2. Otherwise, we're going to take away your benefits in order to make alcohol cheaper. Interesting priorities. And then you have Farage saying on record that he thinks under reform there would be less divorce. Again, staggering hypocrisy from the man who has been married twice, once divorced, once separated, now I believe with his third long-term partner. But there would be less divorce and fewer abortions. And this is the part that should really, really scare us, because there is an organisation called the AFD, the Alliance Defending Freedom, and there was an investigation that was done in the New York Times, and it showed that the AFD was absolutely instrumental in overturning Roe versus Wade in the States. And since that happened, several of the states in the US have chosen to impose abortion bans. And whatever your stance on abortion, whether you personally think that it is the correct moral choice for you, you should absolutely support other people's right to that healthcare, because when abortions are banned, it doesn't actually lead to more healthy babies being born. What it leads to is a lot more women and babies dying for a multitude of different reasons, because desperate people access unsafe abortions, but also because any ban that bans abortions, in some instances it's very difficult to tell the difference between an abortion and a pregnancy loss. You have doctors that are scared to intervene when a woman is going through pregnancy loss because they think that there's going to be legal action taken against them. That then endangers the mother's life. And it endangers babies at the point of birth, because there's less reproductive healthcare available for the women who are giving birth. So in the states that have imposed an abortion ban, and I know this because I've been researching it hard for the book that I just wrote, infant mortality has doubled in those states, and women dying in childbirth has also dramatically increased. So it's not about being pro-life in any meaningful sense. It's about controlling women. So you have this kind of quote-unquote family values thing that is being pushed by reform. In fact, Farage told The Times in May, in an ideal world, parents would get married and stay together. This is what they seem to want. I'm piecing all of these different things together. They seem to want a world like the 1950s, where as a woman you got married at 18 because that was what was expected of you, and you didn't have access to further education, and you weren't really able to build a career, and you had children and you looked after them at home whilst your husband went out to earn money. And if that's what you choose to do with your life, good for you. I'm a feminist. I'm a proper feminist, which means I support your right to choose. And if you want to get married at 18 and have babies and stay at home and take care of them, and you can afford to do that, which most people can't, but if you can afford to do that and that's what you choose to do with your life, there is no judgment coming from me. Good for you. I really want you to be able to live that life if that is your choice. But the idea of the state intervening through taxes, through getting involved in the private sector and telling people what they should do about working from home, which shuts a lot of particularly mothers out of the employment market, and through taxes and through this idea about educating girls and putting the fear of God into them about their fertility window, that is the state intervening in our private lives on an unprecedented level. And this is a party that has campaigned on being small state and saying, no, you know what, you do whatever you want to do. We're not going to get involved. And yet they seem to be trying to tell us how to live. And that's particularly true if you are a woman. I find this terrifying. And I know, and I'm not even looking at the texts that are coming into the studio right now, but I know for a fact that there will be texts coming into the studio going, oh, you're so scared of reform, cry your liberal tears. I'm so over that. Because, yeah, I am scared because this affects me and it affects the people that I care about. And if you find that contemptible, that I am frightened by the prospect of this type of authoritarianism, then you have no soul. And it's not my liberal tears that you should be worried about. You should be thinking about why you making your political choices purely based on who cries as a result. It doesn't seem a very sensible way to cast your vote. But what in The Handmaid's Tale is going on here? This is a road to Gilead moment. I cannot stress to you strongly enough how this is an authoritarian hard right playbook. They talk about family values to make it seem cozy, to make it seem like the kind of thing that can't be argued with. But think about what they're saying. Less divorces means less freedom to leave an unhealthy or an abusive marriage. When they talk about families, they're thinking about a mum and a dad and two, but no more than two children. They're not thinking about all families, all the different shapes a family can take, all the different ways that they can look. They're not thinking about supporting all families. They're talking about supporting a very specific type of family and then taking away women's rights, reproductive rights. It is the most authoritarian thing that you can do to our gender. And I'm incredibly worried about this, about these little hints that we're getting from the Reform Party about the direction of travel that they are taking on this.